Hello, I'm Robin Murray, and I'm a professor of psychiatry at the Institute of Psychiatry at King's College in London. And today we're going to be talking about some questions that people have asked on Google about schizophrenia.
So schizophrenia is the term that psychiatrists use for severe psychosis. Psychosis is hearing things, seeing things, having bizarre, deluded ideas, or behaving in a very strange way. And sometimes people can have a very brief psychosis. It can just last a few days or a few weeks. But if it persists, then we would tend to call it schizophrenia. But in psychiatric disorders, we don't really have tests for the conditions. So schizophrenia is really just the term for a collection of symptoms. As I said, hearing things or seeing things, of having these bizarre, strange ideas that nobody else believes, and you believe them with a great fervor. And if they don't go away over a period of a few months, then we might say that you had schizophrenia. Sometimes it is the case that if people get very isolated, then they can begin to develop strange ideas. If you're solitary, or say you're in solitary confinement in prison, your mind can go round and round, and you can gradually believe more and more strange things. And there's nobody there to correct you and say, hey, Robin, that's rubbish. So if you are socially isolated and you have a susceptibility to psychosis, that can sometimes induce it. It's sometimes confusing, the terms that psychiatrists use. So for example, within psychosis, you can be regarded as having schizophrenia, or on the other hand, you can be regarded as having bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder is when you sometimes are very high and very elated and very excited and full of energy, and then sometimes very, very depressed. So there's two poles, bipolar, to your mood or your affect. And schizoaffective disorder is for people who have a bit of both symptoms. They have schizophrenic symptoms, and they also have these affective or mood symptoms. So somebody who is deluded and hallucinated, but is also a bit manic, you would say that they had schizoaffective disorder. There is a modest predisposition to schizophrenia. It's a bit like a heart attack, that in some families you're more likely to have a heart attack because you might inherit a high cholesterol or high blood pressure. But most people who have a heart attack, they don't inherit it. The environmental causes push them into a heart attack. And schizophrenia is a bit like that. There is a small predisposition, small genetic predisposition. So some people are a bit more likely to be pushed into psychosis. But usually it's the environmental things that are the critical ones. Let's say if you have a very difficult birth or you're very premature, that can increase your risk. If you are abused as a child, that can increase your risk. If you migrate from one country to another in a strange country, you can have a greater risk. If you abuse drugs, you can also have a greater risk. So there is a small genetic predisposition, but you don't get it. You don't inherit a gene. It's not like cystic fibrosis that you inherit a gene and bang, you get it. No, you're just a little more susceptible. We can do a lot for people with schizophrenia. It used to be that psychiatrists were very pessimistic about the outcome for schizophrenia. But now we have better medications and we have better psychological treatments, and we understand the condition very much better. So if somebody has a first episode of schizophrenia, then in 20% of cases, they'll never have another episode in their life. In maybe another 50%, they may have one or more re-episodes, further episodes, but most of the time they'll be okay. And then there's a proportion of maybe 20 to 30% of people who will have persistent symptoms and will need treatment for many years. I think the popular idea of schizophrenia portrayed by the tabloid newspapers is quite wrong. It's not associated in the main with violence, and you should not think that you're going to be condemned to a life of being unwell. More than 80% of people will recover from their first episode, and it's only a minority who will go on to have continuing trouble. We can do a lot for people with schizophrenia, more modern medications, and also psychological treatments, CBT, and also, of course, trying to work out what pushed somebody into psychosis in the first place. If people are in a terrible social situation, we can make them better. But if they go back into that social situation, circumstances may push them back into it again. So we have three approaches. One is medication, one is psychological, and the other is social, to try and get people into a social niche that they fit into, a nice family, a nice place to live, and a decent job.